If I was writing a cookbook, this recipe would definitely be in it. Part 14, the most extra peanut butter cookie. This cookie recipe came out of many different influences that just so happened to coincide on the same week. It all started on a very cold and wintry week. I got a new cookbook, Milk Bar by Christina Tossi. I don't know how to say her name, but it was very exciting, and I was really wanting to try out her cornflake crunch. So I did. And I was like, oh, this is really yummy. What could I do with this? Well, it just so happened that same week, a friend came over for dinner and brought chili chocolate that he got. And it was delicious. And then I was thinking, man, I haven't had a good peanut butter cookie in a long time. And I found a soft and like kind of chewy cookie recipe. And I was like, wait a second. What if I take that chocolate, add it to the cookie? I substitute miso paste for the salt. I roll it in cornflake crunch. And then the most extra recipe was born. Okay, I'm going to calm down. You might be able to tell that I'm very excited about this recipe. And so let's start from the beginning with the cornflake crunch. When I made the cornflake crunch, I made a full recipe, which makes about 4 cups of it, and you don't need that much for the cookies. So the measurements I'm going to give you are for a smaller amount that's good for a batch of cookies. You're going to need a cup of cornflakes, 1.5 tablespoons of milk powder, 1.5 teaspoons of sugar, 1.5 tablespoons of butter, and a pinch of salt. You're going to begin by browning 1.5 tablespoons of butter, and then you're going to add to that a cup of cornflakes that have been crunched up to, like, you can just use your hands to crunch them up. And you're going to add that to the brown butter. You're going to give it a stir. Then you're going to add the sugar, give it a stir, milk powder, give it a stir, salt, give it a stir. The reason I did it like that is because I didn't want to have extra bowls, and it worked fine. You're going to take that and spread that out on a baking tray with silpat parchment paper, or you could just use a regular, like without any parchment paper. I'm assuming it probably wouldn't stick because it has enough butter in it. I just did the silpat just to make sure. You're going to cook the cornflake crunch at 275 for 20 minutes, and then you're going to allow it to completely cool down before you use it. So in Christina Tulsi's cookbook, she says how it's really yummy to snack on. It is. It's delicious. That you can store it for a week and it would be fine. And you can put in the freezer if you have extra. The first time I made it, I had like 4 cups, so I had a lot of extra. So that's why I was trying different recipes to see how to use it. Next up, you're going to make the chewy peanut butter cookie. This recipe is from Elizabeth Merrick. I'm not sure. Sorry. Can you tell I'm really bad at saying last names? It's crazy. It's embarrassing. I wish I was better at it. I grew up having one of those last names that nobody could pronounce. It doesn't bother me if people can't pronounce it, but I know it bothers some people. So, sorry. Anyway, back to Elizabeth's recipe. For this recipe, you're going to need 3 cups of flour, a teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of baking powder. She used salt. I changed that to miso. So you're going to need 3 teaspoons of like a light colored miso, 2 cups of brown sugar, 1 cup of unsalted butter, 1 cup of smooth peanut butter or like peanut butter spread. That's what I used. Add 2 large eggs, and you're going to need chocolate, but we'll talk about that later. You're going to start off by beating together the brown sugar and the butter. I used a mixer to do this. I suppose you could do it by hand, but I did not. I don't know how long that would take. You're going to mix it until it's well combined and it becomes lighter in color. Whenever you're beating together butter and sugar, just make sure that you're like continuing to scrape down the sides so that way there's not like pockets of butter or sugar that haven't been incorporated. After you do that, you're going to add the peanut butter and then mix that until it's smooth. Then you're going to add an egg at a time. And then what I did, I made this recipe a few times. What I did after that is I put the baking soda and baking powder in there and I just quickly beat that together. And then I put the flour in. In the original recipe, you're supposed to put all the dry ingredients together and mix them, but then that would create another bowl, and I would like to not use extra bowls if possible. So that's why I did it that way. You're going to mix the flour in until it's just combined. You don't want to overmix it. And then you're going to take your chocolate. In this version, I used chili chocolate. My friend, he got his chili chocolate at Aldi's, and I went there and they were out of it because I guess we're not the only ones that like chili chocolate. And so I went to another store and I got a different brand, and it was like more than twice the price of it. And ooh, that was a lot, but I really was excited about this recipe, so I did it. I chopped up the bar and then I let it kind of just quickly mix in, like folding it in so I don't overmix the dough. Then I chilled the dough overnight. Okay, now let's say you don't want to spend $6 on a high quality chocolate bar. I usually don't want to do that unless I'm just like eating it out of hand. Even so, I usually don't want to do that. So I made this again a few days later, and I used dark chocolate chips and I added cayenne pepper into the mix when I was mixing together the dough. And I just did a like 2 dashes of cayenne pepper. So that way you got some of the spiciness that you would get from the chili chocolate and you got the dark chocolate. One of the things that I liked better about the bar that I just chopped up is you got like larger chunks of chocolate. I like that. This is the most extra peanut butter recipe, so you could do that, but if you want to save some money, you can also just use dark chocolate chips and a few dashes of cayenne pepper. Okay, so it's the next day, and the cookie dough has chilled overnight. For this version, I did is like this would make 16 cookies, like a full batch of this one. If you want them large, you could make them smaller and then do 24 cookies. I've done both. It just seems like the most extra peanut butter cookie should be big, so that's why I made them bigger. Or you can make them like a more normal size cookie. So I took one of the balls of dough, rolled them up, and then just gently pressed them down. And you're going to need to put them on a cookie sheet lined with Silpat, or you can do parchment paper. And I haven't tried it without it. I'm assuming you could. And you're going to put it on a baking tray and give at least 2 inches of space because these do spread out and they do get significantly bigger. You're going to cook them at 375 for about 12 minutes for the smaller ones and about 14 minutes for the larger ones. But every oven is a little bit different, so just keep checking on them. I wanted one that was going to be still soft on the inside because it had that nice crisp on the outside. I wanted it to be like a little bit gooey on the inside and soft. Not undercooked, just soft. So let's talk about the 6 questions I always ask myself for every cookie recipe, or every recipe in general. First one is, how does it taste? Guys, it's good. It's really good. I made it for some friends and they said that it was the best cookie they ever had. Now, maybe they were being polite. I've been friends with both of those people since we were children, so maybe they were just being encouraging, but they did say it was the best cookie they ever had. So I'm just going to go with that. I ask myself if it's easy, and I'd say, yeah, it's pretty easy. It's not as easy as the easiest, but it's like good for if you want to take the next step in a kind of new recipe. Then I ask myself, is it quick? No, it's not as quick as most peanut butter cookies because you have to make the cornflake crunch. But if you already had the cornflake crunch, yeah, it'll be pretty quick. Then I ask myself, can I make in bulk? Yes, you can. I made a double batch just a few days ago. Then I asked myself, can I freeze it? Yes, you can, because that's what I did with that double batch. I froze it. Okay, last question is, how much does it cost? And I'll give you 2 different versions. One version uses the very nice, expensive type of chocolate, and that is like between $9 and $10 for 16 very large cookies. If you did the other version with the dark chocolate chips and the dashes of cayenne pepper, that would be about $5 for 16 extra large cookies. So, obviously the big price difference is the chocolate. I mean, it's worth it with a good chocolate. It's really good. But if you want to save some money, the other one is still very, very yummy. Um, I mean, I'm excited. If you're excited and you make this, I hope you enjoy it as much as we did.